Chapter 1. When crystal shatters, champagne flute exploded against the marble floor 3 seconds before. My life did the same. I didn't mean to drop it. My fingers had simply stopped obeying commands. Gone numb the moment I watched. Dominic Calvano's Fiancée, a woman whose diamond engagement ring could fund a small country, strike our youngest server across the face. The sound cracked. Through Aurelio's dining room like a gunshot, everything stopped. The classical piano. The murmured conversations of Seattle's wealthiest elite. Even the chandeliers seemed to hold their breath, crystals frozen mid-sway. "You clumsy little bitch," Bianca Moretti hissed, her perfectly manicured hands still raised. "This dress is worth more than your pathetic life." 17-year-old Maya stood there, soup splattered across her white apron, a red handprint blooming across her cheek. She'd stumbled. The tray had tipped. It was an accident, the kind that happened in restaurants every single night. But apparently not to women who wore blood diamonds and cruelty like perfume. My body moved before my brain caught up. I was already stepping forward, already opening my mouth to defend Maya, when I felt it, a presence. Heavy as smoke, sharp as winter. He was watching me. Dominic Calvano sat at the corner table, perfectly still in his three-piece suit, dark eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my pulse stutter. He hadn't moved when his fiancée struck Maya, hadn't flinched when the glass shattered. He'd simply been waiting. For what? "Is there a problem?" I heard myself say, my voice steadier than my hands. I was the senior server here, had been for 3 years. I knew how to handle difficult customers. I didn't know how to handle the way his gaze tracked over me like he was committing every detail to memory. Bianca whirled on me, her beauty sharp enough to cut. "The problem is, your incompetent staff ruined my Valentino. Do you have any idea who I am?" "I know exactly who you are." The words came out quieter than I intended. "And I know that assaulting employees is grounds for removal from the premises." The temperature in the room plummeted. Bianca's laugh was acid. "Remove me? Sweetheart, my family owns half this city. My future husband," she gestured dramatically toward Dominic, "could buy this pathetic restaurant with the change in his pocket. Then perhaps he should invest in teaching you basic human decency." I didn't mean to say it. The words simply fell out, propelled by 3 years of watching entitled socialites treat service workers like furniture. By the memory of my own mother cleaning houses for people who never learned her name. By the bright red mark on Maya's face. The silence that followed felt alive, dangerous. Bianca's face transformed into something feral. She started toward me, and I watched her hand rise with the same detached clarity I'd experienced once during a car accident, that strange slowing of time when you know impact is inevitable. Enough, one word. Low and absolute, Dominic Calvano stood, and the room rearranged itself around him. He wasn't tall, maybe 6 feet, but he commanded space like gravity itself bent to his will. The candlelight caught the sharp planes of his face, the gray threading through his black hair. The scar that cut through his left eyebrow like a signature. He moved toward us with the unhurried confidence of someone who'd never needed to rush for anything in his life. "Bianca." He didn't look at his fiancée. His eyes stayed locked on mine, dark and depthless. "Go wait in the car." But she now. The word carried weight I didn't understand. Authority that transcended mere wealth or social standing. Bianca's protest died in her throat. She shot me a look of pure venom, gathered her designer clutch, and stalked toward the exit on heels that could double as weapons. Then it was just him, standing close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and dark, like cedar and secrets. "You're brave," he said softly. Not a compliment, an observation. Or stupid. I haven't decided which. My heart hammered against my ribs. She hit a child. She hit an employee. There's a difference. His head tilted slightly, studying me with an expression I couldn't read. "What's your name?" I shouldn't tell him. Every instinct screamed that giving this man anything, even something as simple as a name, was dangerous. "Nessa," I whispered. "Nessa Reyes." Something flickered across his face. Recognition? Interest? It vanished too quickly to identify. He reached into his jacket, and I stopped breathing. But he only pulled out a slim leather wallet, extracted a black card, and pressed it into my palm. His fingers brushed mine for half a second, warm, deliberate, "For the girl's medical expenses. And your trouble." His voice dropped lower. "Though I suspect you've just purchased far more trouble than you realize." Nessa Reyes. He turned to leave, then paused, glancing back over his shoulder. I'll be seeing you again. It wasn't a prediction. It was a promise. And as I stood there with his card burning in my hand, watching him disappear into the Seattle rain, I realized with bone-deep certainty that the sound of breaking glass tonight had been an omen. My ordinary life had just shattered beyond repair. Chapter 2. The Serpent's Card. The black card sat on my kitchen counter like a coiled snake. I'd been staring at it for 20 minutes. Cold coffee going colder in my mug, while rain hammered against the windows of my studio apartment. The card was matte black, no bank logo, just a name embossed in silver, Dominic Calvano. And below it, a phone number, nothing else. As if the name alone should be explanation enough, Maya had gone home with an ice pack and $200 cash from the restaurant's emergency fund. Our manager, Gerald, had been pale as death when he'd pulled me aside after closing. Do you have any idea what you've done? His hands shook as he poured himself whiskey. The Moretti family doesn't forget insults. And Dominic Calvano, he'd stopped, taken a long drink. Just, be careful, Nessa. Lock your doors. I'd laughed it off. Told him I'd dealt with worse than a spoiled socialite having a tantrum, but I hadn't dealt with the way Dominic had looked at me. Like he could see through skin and bone into something deeper. Like he already knew secrets I hadn't told anyone. I'll be seeing you again. My phone buzzed, making me jump. A text from my roommate, Priya, working overnight at the hospital. Don't wait up. Zoso, I was alone. In an apartment with locks that barely worked, in a city that suddenly felt too big and too small at the same time. I picked up the card, turned it over. On the back, handwritten in elegant script, when you're ready to understand what happened tonight. My thumb traced the letters. What did that mean? What was there to understand beyond a rich woman losing her temper and a richer man cleaning up her mess? The smart thing would be to throw it away. Forget this night ever happened. Instead, I grabbed my laptop. 10 minutes of searching told me everything, and nothing. Dominic Calvano owned import-export businesses, luxury hotels, 3 restaurants, including Aurelio's, and half a dozen commercial properties across the Pacific Northwest. His net worth was estimated in 9 figures. He sat on charity boards. He donated to children's hospitals. He looked legitimate, respectable, but the photos told a different story. In every image gallery openings, business conferences, society galas, he stood slightly apart, never quite smiling, always watching, and the people around him held themselves with a careful deference that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with fear. I clicked deeper. Found a news article from 8 years ago, suspected mob TIs under investigation, but the investigation had gone nowhere. Witnesses recanted. Evidence disappeared. The story died. Another article older. Businessman cleared in shooting. Self-defense. The jury ruled. The man he'd killed was never named. My coffee had gone cold enough to hurt my throat when I drank it. A knock at the door made me slam the laptop shut. It was past midnight. Priya had a key. No one else should know where I lived. Another knock. Heavier. More insistent. Nessa Reyes. A man's voice, unfamiliar. Mr. Calvano sent us. The air left my lungs. I moved to the door on shaking legs, looked through the peephole. 2 men in dark suits stood in the hallway. Not young, not old, not smiling. The kind of men who looked like they'd been carved from stone and taught to wear human skin. What do you want? My voice barely worked. Mr. Calvano requests your presence. We have a car waiting. At midnight, he doesn't sleep much. A pause. Neither should you. Not after what you did tonight. The threat was velvet-wrapped but unmistakable. I could refuse. Could call the police, though Gerald's warning suggested that might be useless. Could run, though I had nowhere to go and $23 in my checking account. Or I could open the door. I chose the door. Because fear, I was learning, came in different flavors. And the fear of not knowing, of waiting for something terrible to find me, was worse than walking toward it. I need to change. 5 minutes. I closed the door. Grabbed jeans, a sweater, my dead mother's cross necklace that I wore for courage rather than faith. My hands trembled as I braided my hair. In the mirror, I looked pale, small, nothing like the woman who'd challenged Bianca Moretti in front of Seattle's elite. What had I been thinking? The men escorted me downstairs to a black Mercedes with tinted windows. The interior smelled like leather and something else, gun oil, maybe. One man drove. The other sat beside me in silence, scrolling through his phone like transporting frightened waitresses. Was just another Tuesday night, We drove toward the water, past the city lights into darker streets where warehouses loomed like sleeping giants. The rain had softened to mist that clung to everything, turning the world gray and uncertain. The car stopped at a building I didn't recognize. Modern, glass and steel. Security cameras everywhere. This way, they led me through a private entrance, into an elevator that required a key card, up to the top floor. The hallway was silent except for our footsteps. Expensive art lined the walls, abstracts that looked like violence frozen in paint. They stopped at a door, knocked once. "Come in." His voice, low and certain. The door opened. Dominic Calvano stood by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, a glass of amber liquid in one hand. He'd removed his jacket. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms mapped with old scars. He turned. Those dark eyes found mine across the room. "Thank you for coming, Nessa," as if I'd had a choice. "Though we both know," he continued, moving closer with that same unhurried grace, "you had to. Because you're wondering what I want. What tonight really meant. What happens next." He stopped 3 feet away, close enough to touch, too close to breathe. "So let me show you." Chapter 3. The price of seeing set his glass down on the desk between us. The sound echoed in the silence. "Do you know what I do, Nessa?" I swallowed. "You own businesses, import-export, hotels. That's what I tell the IRS. The corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile. "What do you think I do?" The question felt like a test, like stepping on ice and not knowing how thick it was. "I think," I said slowly, "that people are afraid of you for reasons that have nothing to do with money." "Smart girl." He moved to a cabinet, poured another drink, offered it to me. I shook my head. "Bianca doesn't know this, but her family has been skimming from shipments. Small amounts, thinking I wouldn't notice." My pulse kicked up. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you defended a girl who means nothing to you, against a woman who could destroy your life." He took a sip, watching me over the rim of the glass. "That kind of loyalty is rare. That kind of courage is rarer." It wasn't courage. It was basic decency. In my world, they're the same thing. He crossed to the windows. The city sprawled below us, lights reflecting off wet streets like scattered jewels. From up here, it looked beautiful, clean. You couldn't see the rust or the rot. "I'm breaking my engagement," he said. Tonight was the final proof I needed. The Morettis are liabilities, greedy, sloppy, dangerous in ways I don't tolerate. I didn't understand why he was telling me this, why I was here at all. "What does this have to do with me?" He turned. In the low light, his face was all shadows and angles. "When I end things with the Morettis, there will be consequences. They'll see it as an insult, a declaration of war." He paused. "And Bianca will remember the woman who humiliated her, the woman I defended." The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. "You're saying I'm in danger. I'm saying you became part of this the moment you opened your mouth." His voice remained calm, but something flickered in his eyes. "Regret, maybe, or calculation. The Morettis play dirty. They'll come after anyone they think matters to me. I don't matter to you. You don't even know me. They don't know that." He moved closer. "All they saw was me silencing my fiancé for you, touching your hand, looking at you like." He stopped. "They saw enough." My breath came shallow. "So what happens now? You're here to threaten me? Tell me to leave town?" "No." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a key, set it on the desk beside his glass. "I'm here to offer you protection." I stared at the key. It looked ordinary, silver, worn. "What is that?" "A property I own, downtown, secure building. Good locks. Better than whatever you have now." His jaw tightened. "You'll move in tomorrow. My people will handle everything." "You're insane." The words tumbled out. "You think I'm just going to uproot my entire life because of some maybe threat from people I don't know?" "The threat isn't maybe." He picked up his phone, swiped, turned it toward me. "This was taken an hour ago. Outside your building." The photo showed a black SUV, 3 men inside, watching. My stomach dropped. "They're already watching you, Nessa, learning your patterns, figuring out when you're most vulnerable." He pocketed the phone. "I can stop this, but only if you let me." "Why?" My voice cracked. "Why do you care what happens to me?" For the first time, something unguarded crossed his face. He looked away, jaw working like he was chewing on words he didn't want to swallow. "Because you reminded me," he said quietly, "of someone I failed to protect once. A long time ago. The admission hung between us, fragile and dangerous. I thought about my apartment with its broken locks, about Priya working overnight shifts at the hospital, unaware her roommate might have painted a target on both their backs, about Maya's red cheek and the way Bianca's eyes had promised retribution. If I agreed to this, I said, what do you get out of it? He smiled, then, a real smile, small and sharp. You think there's always an angle, isn't there? Yes. He picked up the key, held it out. You stay alive. And I sleep slightly better knowing I didn't get another innocent person killed because of who I am. I took the key. Our fingers brushed again, and this time the contact lasted a heartbeat longer. His skin was warm, calloused, the hands of someone who'd done more than sign contracts. This doesn't mean I trust you, I said. Good. You shouldn't. He stepped back, putting distance between us. Trust gets people killed in my world. Fear keeps them breathing. Which one keeps you breathing? The question surprised us both. His eyes darkened, and for a moment I saw something beneath the control. Something tired and alone, and so carefully hidden. I wondered if anyone else had ever noticed it. Neither, he said. I stopped breathing years ago. I just learned to fake it well. A knock at the door broke the moment. One of his men appeared. Car's ready, boss. And Moretti called. Twice. Dominic's expression shuddered, closed, the vulnerability vanishing like it had never existed. Let him wait. He looked at me. Marcus will take you home. Pack what you need. You move tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. And if I refuse, then you're a fool. He moved to the door, paused. But somehow, I don't think you're foolish at all, Nessa Reyes. Reckless, maybe. Brave, definitely. But not foolish. You don't know me well enough to judge. He glanced back, and something in his expression made my pulse stutter. Not yet, he said. But I will. The door closed behind him, leaving me alone with a key that felt heavier than metal should, and the growing certainty that I'd just made a choice I couldn't take back. Chapter 4. The gilded Kajith apartment Dominic owned wasn't an apartment. It was a statement. 23rd floor. Corner unit. Windows that framed the city like it existed solely for my viewing pleasure. Hardwood floors that gleamed under recessed lighting. Furniture that cost more than I'd earned in 2 years at Aurelio's. A kitchen with appliances I didn't know how to operate. And cameras. Discreet. But I'd spotted 3 already. Mr. Calvano had the place stocked, Marcus said, gesturing to the refrigerator. Anything you need that's not here, make a list. Someone will handle it. Someone. Always someone. Never names. Never faces I could remember later. The building has 24-hour security. Coded entry. Your key card opens the private elevator directly to this floor. He handed me a phone. New number. Mr. Calvano's contact is already programmed. Any problems, you call him directly. I stared at the sleek device. What about my friends? My job? Keep working if you want. But your shifts just changed to daylight only. And your friend, he checked his phone. Priya Sharma. We've arranged extra security at the hospital. She doesn't know. Better that way. My skin crawled. You investigated her? We investigate everyone. His tone suggested this was obvious. You'll get used to it. And if I don't want to get used to it? Marcus almost smiled. Then you picked the wrong man to piss off rich people for. He left. The door locked with an electronic beep that sounded final. I stood in the center of the living room, surrounded by luxury I hadn't earned and safety I hadn't asked for, and felt more trapped than I'd ever felt in my cramped studio with its broken locks. My phone, the new one, buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Settling in, I didn't need to ask who it was. This place has cameras. I typed back, for your protection, or your surveillance. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Both. Sleep well, Nessa. I didn't sleep well. I barely slept at all. The bed was too soft. The silence too complete. And every time I closed my eyes, I saw Bianca's hand connecting with Maya's face. Heard the crack of crystal on marble, felt Dominic's fingers brushing mine as he handed me that card. You reminded me of someone I failed to protect once. Who? And what had happened to them? At 6 a.m., I gave up on sleep, made coffee in the intimidating kitchen, watched the sunrise paint Elliott Bay in shades of pink and gold while Seattle woke up below me, oblivious to the cage I'd walked into. My old phone, the one I'd kept despite Marcus's suggestion to dispose of it, rang. Gerald. Nessa. He sounded wrecked. Thank God. Are you okay? I'm fine. Why? Someone broke into the restaurant last night, trashed the office, stole the employee files. A pause. Your files specifically. They wanted your address, emergency contacts, everything. My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. Gerald, I called to warn you, but your number's disconnected. Where are you? I looked around the pristine apartment. Somewhere safe. Jesus Christ. He let out a shaky breath. Calvano moved you, didn't he? I told you to be careful. The man's connected to things that Nessa, you need to understand what you're involved in. Then tell me. Silence stretched. When Gerald spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. 3 years ago, before I managed Aurelio's, I worked at another restaurant. High-end place, mob-owned. I saw things, heard things, and I learned that Dominic Calvano isn't just connected to organized crime. He is organized crime, West Coast operations, money laundering, protection rackets. He's untouchable because half the city's politicians are in his pocket, and the other half are too scared to move against him. My hand tightened on the phone. He owns judges, Nessa, police, the kind of power that doesn't show up in Forbes articles. And the Morettis? Gerald laughed, bitter. They're old money trying to play in a game Calvano invented. Breaking that engagement is a declaration of war. And you're the excuse, I finished. Or the weapon. Both, he sighed. Look, I'm quitting. Taking my wife and leaving Seattle. I suggest you do the same. The call ended. I sat there as the sun climbed higher, turning the city from pink to gold to harsh white, and tried to process what I'd learned. Tried to reconcile the man who'd stood in the same light last night, looking tired and alone, with the crime lord Gerald described. The door beeped. I jumped, spilling coffee. Dominic walked in like he owned the place, which technically he did. He'd changed since last night. Dark jeans, black Henley, casual in a way that somehow made him more dangerous. His hair was damp, like he'd just showered. He carried a paper bag that smelled like fresh pastries. You're up early, he said, setting the bag on the counter. Hard to sleep in a stranger's apartment. It's your apartment now. He pulled out a croissant, broke it in half, offered me a piece. When I didn't take it, he shrugged and ate it himself. Marcus said you adapted well. Marcus doesn't know me. Neither do I. Yet. He leaned against the counter, studying me with that unnerving focus. But I'm learning. You don't trust easily. You're loyal to a fault. And you're terrified, but too proud to show it. I'm not terrified. Liar. The word was soft, almost affectionate. You're shaking. I looked down. He was right. My hands trembled around the coffee mug. Someone broke into the restaurant last night, I said. Stole my file. I know. I had it cleaned up. You knew? Anger flared, hot and welcome. You knew they'd come after me, and I knew they'd try. He straightened, moved closer. They failed. The files they got were fake. Your real information is buried so deep it would take years to find. Your friend is safe. You're safe. His jaw tightened. I told you I'd protect you. Why? The question tore out of me. Why does a crime lord give a damn about a waitress? He went very still. Then slowly, he smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Someone's been talking. Chapter 5. The truth between us, Gerald, I said. No point lying. He told me who you really are. Dominic's smile faded. He set down his coffee with careful precision, and I watched his shoulders shift, a subtle tension that reminded me of a predator deciding whether to attack or retreat. And what did Gerald tell you I am? A criminal. Money laundering. Protection rackets. Politicians in your pocket. My voice stayed steadier than I felt. That you're not just connected to the mob. You are the mob. He nodded slowly, like I'd confirmed something he'd already known. Gerald worked at the Sapphire Room. Before the previous owner had an unfortunate accident, his eyes never left mine. He's not wrong, but he's not entirely right either. So you're what? A criminal with a conscience? I'm a man who built an empire from nothing because the law protects people born with silver spoons and crushes everyone else. He moved to the windows, backlit by morning sun. My father was a dock worker, honest, hard-working. He got caught stealing to feed his family during a strike. The company he'd served for 20 years had him beaten so badly he never walked right again. No charges filed against them. No justice. Because they owned the right people. I heard the anger beneath his calm. Old and banked, but never extinguished. So you became what he hated? I became what I had to. He turned. I'm not asking you to understand. I'm not asking for forgiveness or absolution. I'm telling you the truth because you deserve to know what you're in the middle of, which is a power shift. The old families Moretti, Castellano, Ricci, they've held the Northwest for decades. Bloodlines and tradition. But they're sloppy, greedy. They hurt people for sport. His voice dropped. I hurt people for purpose. There's a difference. That's supposed to make me feel better? No, it's supposed to make you see clearly. He crossed the room, stopped close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. I won't lie to you, Nessa. Not about what I am. But I need you to understand something. What? When the Morettis come, and they will come, they won't care about rules or mercy. Bianca will want revenge for the humiliation. Her father will want it for the broken engagement. And they'll use you to hurt me, because that's how these things work. My throat tightened. You could just let them have me. End this before it starts. Something dangerous flashed across his face. No, I'm not. I'm nobody. You're not nobody. The words came out rough. And I don't sacrifice pawns to protect kings. That's what they do. It's why I'll win. The certainty in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it did something worse. It made me believe him. How long? I asked. How long do I have to live like this? Until it's over. Days, weeks. He paused. Maybe longer. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He reached out, and I froze as his fingers brushed my cheek so light I might have imagined it. I know this isn't what you wanted. I know you're angry and scared and you hate that you're trapped here with a monster. I don't think you're a monster. The confession slipped out before I could stop it. His hand stilled. You should. Maybe. I held his gaze. But you brought me pastries. Monsters don't do that. He almost smiled. Almost. They do if they're trying to fatten you up. The absurdity of it, standing in a luxury apartment, making dark jokes with a crime lord who'd appended my life to save it, hit me all at once. I laughed. Actually laughed, and it sounded slightly unhinged even to my own ears. Dominic watched me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Tears, hysteria, maybe an escape attempt. His thumb traced my jawline, and my breath caught. Not this. What is this? Brave. The word was quiet, reckless, interesting. The last word felt heavy with meaning. I couldn't decipher. His hand dropped away, leaving cold where warmth had been. I have to go, he said. Business. Marcus will stay nearby if you need anything. Business or crime. In my world, they're the same thing. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Nessa? Yeah? Don't try to leave. Not because I'll stop you, but because the men watching this building aren't all mine. Some of them want you dead, and I can't protect what I can't see. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a cell locking. I spent the day exploring my gilded cage. Found designer clothes in my size hanging in the closet. Someone had anticipated everything. Found books on the shelves, classic literature mixed with true crime. Found a guitar in the spare room, old and well-loved, the strings perfectly tuned. Whose guitar? The person he'd failed to protect? By evening, restlessness drove me to the building's gym, empty except for Marcus, who nodded but didn't speak. Maintaining his post by the door like a particularly well-dressed gargoyle, I ran on the treadmill until my legs burned and my mind finally quieted. Showered, changed, made dinner from ingredients I hadn't bought. The sunset, the city lit up, and I stood at those enormous windows, watching Seattle transform into a constellation of lights, feeling like a star that had fallen from orbit and couldn't find its way back. My phone buzzed. Dominic. Are you okay? I stared at the message. 3 simple words that felt impossibly complicated. Define. Okay. I typed back. Alive. Safe. Not hating me too much. 2 out of 3. Which 2? I smiled despite myself. You'll have to guess. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. How interesting? The kind that requires wearing something you can run in. My pulse kicked up. Should I be worried? Always? But especially tomorrow. The message felt like a promise and a threat wrapped together. I set the phone down and wondered what fresh hell morning would bring, and why. Part of me, a small, reckless part, was almost looking forward to finding out. Chapter 6. Blood on the Marble. Interesting part arrived at 4 a.m. in the form of gunfire. I jerked awake to the sound of breaking glass and Marcus's voice shouting commands in the hallway. My heart slammed against my ribs as I rolled out of bed. Instinct overriding panic. More gunshots. Closer. The bedroom door burst open. Marcus, gun drawn, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. Bathroom, now. Lock the door. What's happening? They're here. Move. I ran. Locked myself in the marble bathroom while the world exploded outside. More gunshots. Shouting. Something heavy hitting the floor. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone. Called the only number I knew would answer. Dominic picked up on the first ring. Nessa. They're here. Marcus said there's shooting. Where are you? His voice cut through my panic like a blade. Calm. Absolute. Bathroom. Locked. Good. Stay there. Don't open the door for anyone except me. Do you understand? Yes. I'm 10 minutes away. You're going to be fine. The line went dead. 10 minutes. An eternity measured in heartbeats and gunfire. I pressed my back against the wall, knees pulled to my chest, and counted seconds. Lost track at 200. Started over. The sounds outside had changed, quieter now, but somehow worse. Footsteps. Low voices. The scrape of something being dragged. A fist pounded on the bathroom door. Nessa Reyes. A voice I didn't recognize. Accented. Amused. Mr. Moretti would like a word. I stayed silent, barely breathing. We know you're in there, sweetheart. And we know Calvano isn't. So you can open this door like a good girl. Or we can blow it off the hinges. Your choice. My fingers tightened on the phone. 8 minutes. Maybe less. Maybe more. I'm calling the police, I said, hating how my voice shook. Laughter. Multiple men. Go ahead. Ask for Detective Morrison. Tell him Rico sent you. See what happens. They owned the police. Dominic had told me. I hadn't wanted to believe it. Last chance, Bella? The doorknob rattled. Then stopped. A new voice, sharp with authority. Step away from that door. Dominic. Calvano. We were just. The gunshot was deafening. A body hit the floor. Then another. Silence. Nessa. Dominic's voice through the door, low and controlled. It's me. You're safe. I stood on shaking legs, unlocked the door with numb fingers. He stood in the hallway surrounded by 3 bodies. Blood pooled on the hardwood I'd admired yesterday. His shirt was splattered red. He held a gun with the casual familiarity of someone who'd done this 1,000 times, and his eyes, when they found mine, held something I'd never seen before. Something raw and barely leashed. Are you hurt? He crossed to me in 2 strides, hands on my shoulders, scanning me for injuries. No, the words stumbled out. Marcus? Alive, injured but stable. His jaw tightened. They shouldn't have gotten this far. Someone talked. Someone on my payroll sold you out. The betrayal in his voice was personal, painful. More men appeared, his men. I assumed from the way they moved with military precision, cleaning, removing, making the carnage disappear like it had never happened. We need to move you, Dominic said. This location's compromised. Move me where? Somewhere they can't find you. He grabbed a jacket from the closet, wrapped it around my shoulders. I was still in pajamas, tank top and shorts, completely unprepared for whatever came next. Pack a bag. 2 minutes. I moved on autopilot, threw clothes into a duffel bag, grabbed my mother's necklace, my old phone, the new one. Nothing else mattered. Dominic waited by the door, gun holstered now, but still visible. In the harsh light, I could see the lines of exhaustion carved around his eyes, the gray in his stubble, the way his hands clenched and unclenched like he was fighting for control. I'm sorry, he said quietly. This is my fault. I underestimated how fast they'd move. The man who answered, he said, Detective Morrison is on Moretti's payroll. Has been for years. His expression darkened. Not anymore. The promise in those words made my skin prickle. We took a service elevator down to the parking garage. A different Mercedes waited, engine running. Marcus sat in the passenger seat holding gauze to his head, pale but alive. Boss, he said. They hit 3 of our locations tonight. Coordinated. Professional. Casualties. 2 dead. 5 injured. They wanted to send a message. Dominic's hand found the small of my back, guiding me into the car. His touch was gentle, despite the violence, still clinging to him. They send it, he said. Now I'll send mine. We drove through empty streets, the city still sleeping, unaware that a war had started in its heart. Dominic sat beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him, smell the copper tang of blood mixed with his cologne. Where are we going? I asked. My house. Private estate. 40 miles out. He glanced at me. No one knows about it except the people I trust with my life. You'll be safe there. And you? I have work to do. His voice went cold. The Morettis declared war. I'm going to finish it. How? He smiled, and it was the most dangerous thing I'd ever seen. By reminding this city why people fear my name more than theirs. The car accelerated, carrying us away from the blood and the broken glass, towards something I couldn't yet see. Dawn was coming, painting the horizon in shades of red that looked too much like warning. Dominic's hand found mine in the darkness between us. Squeezed once. I won't let them touch you again, he said. I promise. And despite everything, the bodies, the bullets, the empire built on violence, I believed him. That terrified me most of all. Chapter 7. The Estate of Secrets. The state appeared through morning mist like something from a dream. Or a fortress. Stone walls. Wrought iron gates that opened silently as we approached. Manicured grounds that stretched into forest. And at the center, a house that was part modern glass, part old world elegance, angular lines softened by ivy and age. This is where you live? I asked. When I can. Dominic's voice was distant. He hadn't let go of my hand since we left the city. Most nights I'm at the penthouse downtown. Easier for business. But this, he gestured at the approaching house. This is home. The car stopped at the front entrance. Marcus climbed out, wincing, and was immediately met by a woman in her 60s, with steel gray hair and the bearing of a general, Mr. Calvano. Her eyes swept over him, cataloging injuries. You're bleeding. It's not mine, Rosa. It never is. She turned to me, expression softening slightly. You must be Nessa. Come, I'll show you to your room while the men handle their business. Dominic squeezed my hand once more before releasing it. Rosa runs this house. Whatever you need, ask her. Whatever she tells you to do, do it. She's kept me alive more times than I can count, Rosa snorted. Someone has to. She gestured for me to follow. Come, child. You look like you've seen ghosts, more like created them. I thought, remembering the bodies on my apartment floor. Inside, the house was warm, despite its size. Dark wood and leather furniture. Paintings that looked original. A massive stone fireplace in the great room. But what caught my attention was the photographs lining the hallway, black and white, carefully framed. A younger Dominic with an older man who shared his eyes. The same man with a woman whose smile could light rooms. A teenage girl with wild curls and Dominic's stubborn jaw. His father, Rosa said, noticing my gaze, died when Dominic was 19. Heart gave out, though we all knew it was really the shame that killed him. Shame? Of needing his son to become what he became. To protect what was left of the family. She stopped at another photo. The girl again, older now, laughing at something off camera. And this was Lucia. His sister. Was. Past tense. What happened to her? Rosa's expression shuddered. That's his story to tell. Not mine. She opened a door. This is your room. Bathroom through there. Clothes in the closet should fit. I had your measurements from the apartment. Rest. You've had a terrible night. She left before I could ask more questions. The room was beautiful. Cream walls. 4-poster bed. Windows overlooking gardens that probably looked spectacular in daylight. I showered, scrubbing away the scent of gunpowder and fear, and changed into soft cotton pants and a sweater that smelled faintly of lavender. Sleep should have come easily. Instead, I lay staring at the ceiling, watching shadows shift as dawn became morning, thinking about a girl named Lucia and the way Dominic had said, someone I failed to protect once. Around noon, I gave up, wandered downstairs, following the smell of coffee. The kitchen was massive and lived in, unlike the sterile perfection of the apartment. Rosa stood at the stove, cooking something that made my stomach growl. Sit, she commanded. You need to eat. I obeyed, watching her move with practiced efficiency. How long have you worked for Dominic? 23 years. Since he was a boy thinking he could save the world. She set a plate before me, eggs, toast, fruit. Now he just tries to save pieces of it. People like you. I don't understand why he cares. Don't you? She poured coffee, slid the mug across. You stood up to power for someone weaker. That's who Lucia was. Who Dominic used to be, before the world taught him different lessons. What happened to her? Rosa's hands stilled on the counter. She fell in love with the wrong man. Someone from a rival family. Dominic tried to protect her, tried to negotiate peace. But the old families don't negotiate. They take. Her voice went quiet. They took Lucia, tortured her to hurt Dominic. By the time he found her, it was too late. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. How long ago? 8 years. He buried her on a Tuesday, built his empire by Friday. She met my eyes. Everything he's done since, every territory he's taken, every enemy he's crushed, it's all been to make sure no one he cares about suffers like that again. Then why bring me into this? Why not just let me go? Because he sees her in you. That same fire, that same stupid bravery. Rose's expression softened. And because somewhere beneath all that armor, he's still the boy who believes people are worth saving. Footsteps in the hallway. Dominic appeared, changed into clean clothes, hair damp. He looked exhausted, but alert, those dark eyes scanning the room before settling on me. You should be resting, he said. Couldn't sleep. He nodded like he understood. Probably did. Rosa, give us a moment. She left without argument, taking her coffee. Dominic sat across from me, movements careful. The Morettis hit 6 of my locations last night, killed 4 of my people, wounded 9 more. His jaw worked. This is bigger than I thought. They're not just coming after you. They're coming after everything. So end it. Give me back. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. It's past that now. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. They killed my people, violated the peace we've held for 5 years. This isn't about you anymore, Nessa. It's about power, territory, respect. It's always been about that, I said quietly. I was just the excuse. Something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe. Or regret. I'm sorry you got caught in this. Are you? I held his gaze. Or are you glad to finally have a reason to destroy them? He didn't answer. Didn't need to. The silence said everything. There's something you should know, he said finally. The man who led the attack on your apartment, Rico Castellano. He's Bianca's cousin. Which means the Castellanos have joined the Morettis against me. How bad is that? 2 of the 3 major families united? He smiled without humor. It's war. Chapter 8. When monsters bleed, the war came to the estate 3 days later. I'd spent those days in a strange limbo, walking the grounds under Marcus's watchful eye, reading books from Dominic's library, learning to shoot under Rose's surprisingly expert instruction. Dominic appeared in fragments. Early mornings when I'd find him in his study, exhausted and surrounded by maps and phones. Late nights, when I'd wake to find him standing at my bedroom door, just watching, making sure I was real and safe before disappearing again. We orbited each other like stars caught in competing gravities, never quite touching, never fully apart, until tonight. I was in the library when the alarm sounded. Rosa appeared instantly, gun in hand, face grim. Basement. Now. What's happening? They found us. She grabbed my arm. Move. We ran through hallways I'd barely learned, downstairs that seemed to descend forever, into a reinforced room that looked like something from a spy movie. Monitors showed the estate grounds, armed men advancing through the trees. Too many to count. Marcus was already there, shouting into a radio. South perimeter breached. I need backup. That gunfire erupted on the monitors. Our men falling back toward the house. Where's Dominic? I demanded, fighting. Rose's voice was steel. Doing what he does. One of the monitors showed him. Sender of the chaos, moving with brutal efficiency. He fired, ducked, moved again. No wasted motion. No hesitation. A man who'd learned violence as a second language. I watched him take down 3 men in 15 seconds and felt something twist in my chest. Not horror. Something worse. Recognition. This was who he really was. Not the man who brought pastries or held my hand in the dark. This, the monster he'd warned me about, and I couldn't look away. They're pushing toward the east wing, Marcus said. Boss. Do you copy? Static. Then Dominic's voice, rough with exertion. Copy. Pull everyone back to the house. We defend from inside. That's a kill box. It's stone and steel. Better odds than open ground. A pause. Gunfire. Do it. The next 20 minutes passed in fragments. Our men retreating. The enemy advancing. Explosions that shook the foundation. Rosa praying in Spanish under her breath while checking her ammunition. Then the monitors went dark. They cut the power, Marcus said. Backup generator should. The lights flickered. Died. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Stay here, Rosa commanded. No matter what you hear. She and Marcus left, sealing the door behind them. I sat in the red darkness, listening to the muffled sounds of war above me, and felt utterly useless. People were dying. Dominic was dying, maybe. And I was hiding in a basement like a child. My mother hadn't raised a coward. I found Rose's backup weapon, a small pistol she'd made me practice with. Checked the chamber like she'd taught me. Unlocked the door. The house above was chaos. Smoke and shadows. Bodies I didn't look at too closely. I moved toward the sound of fighting, following instinct and fear in equal measure. Found Dominic in the great room. He was bleeding from his shoulder, backed against the fireplace, facing 3 men. His gun lay on the floor, kicked away. One of the men was Rico Castellano, smiling like Christmas had come early. Not so untouchable now, are you? Rico circled closer. Where's your little waitress? We're going to have so much fun with her after we finish with you. Dominic's expression never changed. You'll die before you touch her. Brave words from a dead man. I stepped from the shadows. Raised the gun. My hands didn't shake. He's right. Foreheads turned. Rico's smile widened. There you are, Bella. Save us the trouble of hunting you down. Nessa, run. Dominic's voice was raw. Please. No, I pulled the trigger. The recoil shocked through my arms. Rico staggered, hand flying to his thigh, where blood bloomed. I'd aimed for center mass, like Rosa taught me, but fear had made my shot wild, but effective. Dominic moved. Faster than I'd thought possible for an injured man. He had his gun before Rico's men could react. 2 shots. 2 bodies. Rico raised his own weapon, aimed at me. Dominic stepped between us. The shot caught him in the chest. Time fractured. I watched him fall in pieces, his eyes widening, knees buckling, blood spreading across his shirt like a dark flower blooming. He hit the floor and didn't get up. Something animal tore from my throat. I fired again, until the gun clicked empty and Rico lay still. Then I was on my knees beside Dominic, hands pressing against the wound, blood hot and impossibly red between my fingers. No, my voice broke. Don't you dare. Don't you fucking dare die on me. His eyes found mine. He tried to speak, coughed blood instead. Rosa. I screamed. Marcus. Someone. Footsteps. Voices. Hands pulling me away. Let me work, Rosa commanded. Already applying pressure, barking orders at Marcus. I sat against the wall, covered in his blood, watching them fight to keep him breathing, and understood with perfect clarity that somewhere in the past week, Dominic Calvano had stopped being the monster who'd stolen my life. He'd become something infinitely more dangerous, someone I couldn't imagine losing. Stay with me, I whispered, though he couldn't hear. Please, stay. The emergency lights flickered. Sirens wailed in the distance, real ones this time. Not Moretti's paid police, but something else. The cavalry arriving too late. Rosa looked up, face grim. He's alive, barely. We need a hospital. He'll never make it that far, Marcus said. Then we bring the hospital here. Rosa's voice turned to iron. Call Dr. Chen. Tell him it's life or death. Tell him Dominic's dying. She didn't say what we all knew, that he might die anyway, and that if he did, the protection he'd offered me would die with him. Chapter 9. The Weight of Heartster. Chen arrived in 40 minutes. That felt like 40 years. I'd been banished from the room where they'd laid Dominic, the study converted into a makeshift operating theater. Rosa worked with military precision. Boiling water. Sterilizing instruments. Her hands steady despite the fear in her eyes. I sat in the hallway outside, still covered in his blood, knees pulled to my chest. Marcus stood guard at the door, radio crackling with updates. The attack was over. 12 of Dominic's men dead, 18 of theirs. Rico Castellano among them. I'd killed a man. The thought should have destroyed me. Instead, I felt nothing. Numb, empty, like I'd left something essential on that blood-soaked floor. When Dominic fell, the study door opened. Dr. Chen emerged. Surgical mask pulled down, exhaustion carved into every line of his face. He's stable, he said. For now. I couldn't breathe. For now? The bullet missed his heart by centimeters, collapsed his lung. He's lost a lot of blood. Chen rubbed his face. The next 48 hours will determine everything. If infection sets in, if there's internal bleeding, we couldn't see. Can I see him? He hesitated. He's sedated. Won't know you're there. I don't care. Chen stepped aside. Dominic lay on the leather couch, tubes running from his arms to bags of clear fluid. Someone had cleaned the blood away, revealing the man beneath the monster. His face was pale, peaceful in a way I'd never seen while he was conscious. Like sleep had stripped away all the armor he carried. I pulled a chair close, took his hand. It was warm, real, alive. "You're an idiot," I whispered. "Stepping in front of a bullet like that. Like you're bulletproof. Like you're..." My voice cracked. "Like you're disposable." His chest rose and fell, steady, mechanical. "I didn't ask for this," I continued, words tumbling out. "Didn't ask to care about a criminal who owns half the city and kills people before breakfast. Didn't ask to stand in a room full of bodies and feel relief that you're the one still breathing." My thumb traced circles on his palm. "Rosa told me about Lucia. About what they did to her. About how you've spent 8 years building walls so high no one could hurt you again." I leaned closer. "But you let me in anyway. Not because you wanted to. Because you couldn't help it. Because somewhere under all that control, you're still the boy who thinks people are worth saving." A tear slid down my cheek. I didn't wipe it away. "So you don't get to die. You don't get to leave me alone in this mess you created, surrounded by enemies who want me dead and guards who answer to a ghost. You don't get to make me..." I stopped, swallowed. "You don't get to make me fall for you and then disappear." The words hung in the air between us. Truth. I hadn't meant to speak. His fingers twitched in mine. I looked up. His eyes were still closed, breathing unchanged. Probably just a reflex. Probably nothing. "Miss Reyes." Rosa appeared in the doorway. "You should rest. Clean up." "I'm not leaving him." "Then at least change clothes. You're covered in..." She gestured at the dried blood. "I'll sit with him. If anything changes, I'll get you immediately." I didn't want to leave, but my hands were sticky with blood, his blood. Rico's blood, and the smell was starting to make me sick. 5 minutes, I said. In my room. I stripped off the ruined clothes and stood under scalding water until my skin turned pink. Watched rust-colored water circle the drain. 3 days ago, I'd been a waitress, worried about rent and tips. Now I was a killer, keeping vigil over the man who'd destroyed and saved my life in equal measure. When I returned to the study, clean and dressed in fresh clothes, Rosa had pulled up a second chair. "Talk to him," she said. "Doctor Chen says hearing familiar voices can help." "What do I say?" "The truth." She stood, squeezed my shoulder. "It's the only thing he's never had enough of." So I talked. Told him about growing up in South Seattle, about my mother, who'd cleaned houses and dreamed bigger dreams for her daughter. About working my way through community college before money ran out. About the first time I'd seen him at Aurelio's months before the night everything changed. And how even then I'd felt the pull of him, dangerous and magnetic. "You ordered the osso buco," I said. "Send it back because it was under-seasoned. The chef wanted to spit in your replacement dish." I talked him out of it. Told him you probably had reasons for being particular. That powerful men usually do. His breathing changed. Deeper, more natural. "I didn't know who you were then. Just another rich customer with expensive taste and cold eyes. But when you left, you tipped 40%. And you looked at me, really looked at me like you saw something more than the uniform." Dawn crept through the windows. Rosa brought coffee. I didn't drink. Marcus updated me on security. The estate was locked down, reinforcements arriving. The Morettis and Castellanos gone to ground. I barely heard him. All my attention was on the rise and fall of Dominic's chest. The flutter of his pulse in his throat. The small signs that he was still fighting. "You're going to wake up," I told him. "Because this story doesn't end here. You're going to wake up and tell me I'm reckless for leaving the basement. You're going to be furious that I killed Rico before you could. You're going to..." His hand tightened around mine. My breath stopped. His eyes opened. Unfocused at first, then sharpening. "Finding me, Nessa." The word was barely a whisper. Rough with pain and medication. "I'm here." I leaned closer, desperate to hear. "I'm right here." "You," he coughed, winced. "You saved me. You saved me first." "That's different." His thumb brushed my knuckles. "You weren't supposed to. I didn't want you to, I know." I pressed my forehead to his hand. "But I did it anyway. Because apparently I'm just as stupid and reckless as you are." He almost smiled. "Worse. Rest. We'll argue about it later." "Nessa?" "Yeah." His eyes held mine, heavy with things, and said, "Don't leave." "I won't." He believed me. I saw it in his face before sleep claimed him again, this time natural. Healing. And I understood that somewhere between the gunfire and the blood, between fear and fury, I'd made a choice I couldn't take back. I was his. He was mine. Whatever that meant in a world built on violence and lies, we'd figure it out, together. Chapter 10. Empire of 3. Weeks later, Dominic stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his study, watching Seattle glitter in the distance. His shoulder was still bandaged beneath his shirt, movements careful, but the color had returned to his face. The darkness too, that particular shadow that came with being the kind of man who'd rebuilt an empire from a hospital bed. The Morettis had fled the city. The Castellanos sued for peace. And Dominic had accepted their surrender with the same cold efficiency he'd used to dismantle their operations piece by piece. The war was over. I leaned against the doorframe, watching him. You should be resting. I've rested enough. He didn't turn. The city doesn't stop because I got shot. The city managed just fine while you were unconscious. That's what worries me. He glanced back, a ghost of a smile on his lips. People get ideas when they think you're weak. I crossed the room to stand beside him. Close enough to feel his warmth, far enough to maintain the careful distance we'd preserved since he'd woken. Like we both knew something had shifted between us, but were afraid to name it. Are you? I asked. Weak? Right now? His eyes met mine. Dangerously so. The admission hung between us, heavy with meaning. Below, the estate sprawled in manicured perfection. I'd learned its rhythms over the past weeks: Rose's morning routines, Marcus's patrol patterns, the way Dominic's men moved through the grounds like ghosts. I'd learned to shoot properly, to spot surveillance, to read the subtle tells that meant danger was approaching. I'd learned to live in his world. The police came by yesterday, I said. While you were meeting with the Ricci family, they wanted to ask about the attack, about Rico. His jaw tightened. What did you tell them? That I was in the basement the whole time. That I don't know anything. I paused. Detective Morrison led the questioning. He seemed disappointed by my answers. He would be. I own him now. Moretti's entire network rolled over when their protection collapsed. Dominic turned to face me fully. You lied to the police for me. I killed a man for you. Lying seems minor in comparison. It's not minor. His hand lifted, hovering near my cheek before dropping. Every choice you make to stay in this world is another piece of yourself you can't get back. Maybe I don't want it back. The words came out stronger than I felt. Maybe that life serving entitled people, pretending I was invisible, maybe that was never really mine either. Nessa, I'm not saying I want to be a criminal. I met his gaze. But I'm also not saying I want to go back to pretending I don't see the truth. That power isn't real. That people like you don't exist. People like me destroy everything we touch. Then I'm already destroyed. I stepped closer. Because I can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop replaying that moment when you stepped in front of the bullet. Can't stop wondering what would have happened if you died before I could tell you. I stopped. The confession stuck in my throat like glass. Tell me what? His voice dropped to something dangerous and soft. That you were right. The first night. I am brave. And reckless. And stupid enough to. I took a breath. To fall in love with a man who kills people before breakfast. The silence stretched. His expression gave nothing away. Then he moved. One step. Two. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to see his face. I thought I was incapable of this, he said quietly. Thought Lucia's death had burned it out of me. The ability to care about anything except revenge and control. His hand finally touched my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone. Then you defended a girl who meant nothing to you. Challenged a woman who could have destroyed you. And I remembered what it felt like to want something other than power. What did you want? You. The word was simple, absolute. From the moment you opened your mouth, I wanted you. Your fire, your foolishness, your refusal to be invisible, even when invisibility would keep you safe. My heart hammered against my ribs. I brought you into hell, he continued. Got you shot at, made you kill, turned you into something you never asked to be. And the worst part, his forehead touched mine. The worst part is, I'd do it again. I'd burn the entire city down before I'd let you go. Dominic, I'm not a good man, Nessa. I never will be. But I'm yours. Completely. Catastrophically. His breath was warm against my lips. If you'll have me, I answered by closing the distance. The kiss was nothing like I'd imagined. Not gentle or tentative. It was hunger and relief and 3 weeks of wanting wrapped into something that felt like falling and flying at once. His hands tangled in my hair. Mine fisted in his shirt, careful of his injured shoulder. Desperate to pull him closer despite the impossibility of closer existing. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. This won't be easy, he warned. My enemies will always see you as a weakness. A target. Let them try. I smiled against his mouth. I'm a pretty good shot now. He laughed, actual laughter, rare and real. Rosa's been training you. Someone had to. You were too busy bleeding. His expression sobered. I'm serious, Nessa. This life, my life, it's dangerous. Dark. There are things I've done. Things I'll have to do, I know. I cupped his face in my hands. I know exactly who you are. And I'm choosing you anyway. Not despite the darkness. Because of what exists beneath it. And what's that? A man who steps in front of bullets for waitresses. Who keeps his sister's guitar tuned 8 years after she died. Who brings pastries to gilded cages and calls it protection. I kissed him softly. A man worth saving, even if he doesn't believe it himself. His arms wrapped around me, careful and complete. Outside, the city stretched toward the horizon, his empire, built on blood and secrets and choices that could never be unmade. Inside, we stood in the wreckage of everything we'd been before and the uncertain promise of what we might become. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't safe, but it was ours. Stay, he whispered into my hair. Not a command. A plea, always. I promised, and meant it, because some love stories don't end with happily ever after. They end with two people choosing each other, despite the cost, building something beautiful and terrible from the ashes of who they used to be. This was ours, built on broken glass and gunpowder. On the moment, Waitress challenged power and a monster remembered how to be human, dangerous, imperfect, undeniably real. And for us, that was enough.